What's going on, guys? So today is the day that we remove the Coleman Mach Quiet Cool 13,500 BTU air conditioning unit from the Brookstone, and we replace it with something special. We will be installing the all-new Furrion Chill Cube 18,000 BTU variable speed air conditioning unit on top of the Brookstone. And the reason for this is pretty simple. The Coleman unit has been giving us some issues. It's time to either service it or replace it. When I mean service it, it needs a pretty extensive repair job done, and it just makes more sense to put something in that a lot of people have been asking me about. This specific air conditioning is the ducted version of what we put in the Surveyor. So the Surveyor has the Furrion Chill Cube 18,000 variable speed direct fire with the louvers that can move and swing. This one is going to push air directly into the ducting system of the RV, or do a direct dump with the interior panel. So we'll have one or the other option. This one does not have a heat pump built into it, but I've been told multiple times that Furrion will have a variation of this with a heat pump in it as well. But this is not that one. They actually sent me just a generic thermostat that I could hang on the wall if I wanted to be able to control thermostat. I don't have to worry about it with this specific RV because the thermostat that's in the RV, that's currently connected to Zone 1, which is the rear air conditioning unit that we're going to be replacing, also is the furnace controls. So we're not going to be swapping the whole system out. We're just going to be swapping one AC unit out, and there will no longer be thermostat controls to that AC. We'll be using the wireless remote that comes with this. So I'm not going to do an entire drawn-out video of removing the old unit. I might give you some clips of it, mainly because I'm going to be using my excavator to do it, and I know that most people trying to do a project like this will not use an excavator. And you know, this kind of gives me an advantage in terms of getting something heavy on top of the roof and getting the old one down. But I will show you some of the steps involved with unsecuring it, some of the precautions you need to take from a wiring perspective, just so you all kind of understand the journey of this. So hope you enjoyed this video. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect shore power, which is either as easy as unplugging it or taking off the twist lock. And I think I will go ahead and just take off the twist lock connector off the back. All right, so now we have shore power disconnected to it. Next, I need to disconnect or turn off my inverter. So now that that is off, the only thing running inside of here is going to be 12 volt stuff, and that's perfectly fine because as long as I don't have 120 going to the AC, we should be in good shape. So there's the disconnect right down there. Went ahead and turned it on. So I have the ability to push out all my slides. And this is utilizing the house battery that came with the RV right here that charges off of the solar panel that was already on here. It actually doesn't come off of this battery system at all, which again gives me the ability to shut everything off and just turn that on to be able to control slides and turn some lights on. Okay, so to take it off, you simply remove these vents. Things are going to look a little different in here if you have followed my channel, because I put in this kind of diversion system up here to keep the airflow going directly into the ducts versus getting trapped and recirculating in this space inefficiently. So I don't know exactly how I want to deal with that though. I might keep it there, but I probably can't because the new system kind of creates its own little diversionary path. So we'll probably take all this out. Maybe. We'll have to see if this is needed or not, but let's find out. Anyways, we're going to take these 4 screws out right here, and this panel will drop down. Okay, so I dropped the panel down, and I pulled all of that stuff out. I'm not sure if I'm going to need any of it with the new system, but you can see why something like that would help, because typically the air would just kind of blow down. There'd be a block right here. And then the air would just blow down and then work its way into the ducting at some point, which again isn't terribly efficient, because if it's just spinning around in here, it's just creating turbulence and noise. And the best route with all of this is to feed the air so it goes straight into the duct. So I might have to put up some type of solution for that here again, but By removing these 4 screws right here, in essence, the whole AC will just move and come off of the roof. So I have everything disconnected that needs to be disconnected other than this, and I'll probably just cut it off at the top there. I think I'll have enough slack to feed to the new unit, so I'm not too concerned about that. And then these wires are my low voltage wires for the thermostat, and this one's hot, so definitely don't want to touch anything with that. Disconnected the control panel up here. Everything that's tied to the bottom unit, or at least the bottom panel here, has been disconnected. And most of these wires we won't even have to use anymore, since the new AC doesn't require a thermostat, or at least doesn't require traditional thermostat controls on the wall over there. So in reality, the only real thing we're going to have to connect is going to be this. I can't think of any other connections we'll have to make, and then we'll connect the top unit to the bottom unit with a Molex plug that's already included. So this shouldn't be too terribly difficult. The biggest challenge at this point is going to be removing the old unit off the roof and putting the new one on and getting it clamped down in place. I am a little concerned about the distance right here, because that's about 8 inches. So I do want to be sure that the bolts that will thread through are going to be able to make that 8-inch trip. Now, these bolts right here may be reusable if they won't, so we'll have to take some measurements to just see for sure. Okay, so I have all 4 screws removed, and the ones that came, or the ones that were already in here going through the Coleman, are quite a bit longer. They're about an inch, maybe an inch and a half longer than the screws that came with the Furrion. So even if these screws are too short, I'll be able to use these, and we should be perfectly fine. So we have everything unscrewed now. I just have to cut the 120 power cable. Once we've done that, I should be able to get on the roof and remove this old one, and then put the new one in its hole, clean up the seal area, and get it up there before we get any type of rain. Okay, so I just lifted up the Furrion Chill Cube air conditioning unit to look at the wiring underneath, and it's so simple since you don't need a thermostat, a wall mount thermostat, to control it. Now this is still going to control this unit right here, as well as the unit inside the master bedroom up front, but it's no longer going to control the unit back here because it'll be completely disconnected. This will also still control the furnace below, so we're going to be in good shape there. What I love about the simplicity here is because this new unit that we install is going to have its own remote wireless thermostat, essentially. And it's not really a thermostat because the temperature probe's in the actual air box, but because the wireless remote control handles all the functions, we can leave it like right here on the wall and have direct access to being able to make air conditioning changes without having to get up and go to the thermostat for the unit that's most convenient to us here in the living room. So that is really, really cool. Now, the next step I have to do is to cut a wire. I already went in mainly to make sure I had enough slack here if I do cut this wire, because I don't want to cut it too short, because if I end up, splicing this thing back in to something else after we fix it, I want to have slack to do it. Now we have power turned off. You don't want to do this if power is turned on. So we're just going to cut the wire right there, and there should be 3 wires in there. All right, so next step is to remove the rooftop unit. Nothing else is tying it to the RV. It might be bonded a little bit just over time, but we'll get this one off and get the new Furrion Chill Cube up there and on. So again, I venture to say the majority of people who would do this type of swap out don't have an excavator with a pallet fork and a platform on the front that they can use to remove the old air conditioning unit and raise the new one back up. So I was going to kind of just skip to this, but I wanted to show you at least what the plan was. So we have the John Deere right here. We're going to put the new air conditioning unit on the platform. I'll raise it up, put it over the slide, and get it right next to the one we're removing. Then I'll simply shimmy it off of the platform and put the old one back on it. Then we'll remove it kind of the same way in reverse. So that's the plan. And this is what worked for the Surveyor, at least, so hopefully we'll have no issues doing it here as well. It is super windy outside, and it is cold, so that shouldn't impact anything. Okay, so I was able to wrestle the Furrion Chill Cube. This thing probably weighs, I'm just going to guesstimate, about 100 pounds. It is not very lightweight, and we got to pull the one up there off. I don't know how much that one weighs, but I venture to say probably about the same. Okay, so I think we're in a good spot now. Just need to climb up the ladder, get to it, and do the swap. I'm gonna keep the excavator going. I don't think we'd lose any significant amount of hydraulic fluid with it off, but just to be safe, I don't want it to slowly lower. I don't think it will, but let's see what we can do up there. Okay, so we're on top now, and as with the Furrion we put up there, it's significantly shorter than the unit we removed. This one also is going to be the same. I apologize for wind noise. I don't have any wind filters up here, but this one appears to be about probably the same, about a foot shorter, but I should be able to just literally lift this off, put this one in place, and we should be good to go. But when I do that, after I pull this one off, I'm going to go ahead and wipe the surface down just so we don't have to worry about any type of imperfections contaminating it. Okay, so I've removed the Coleman. Sorry again, it's real windy. I'm going to clean up the area where the seal sits. It's not bad at all, but definitely want to clean up some of the surrounding area because that's area that was tucked underneath the shroud and I was unable to get to it before whenever I do my, my maintenance on the RV roof. Okay, so the new one's up here. Got the Coleman on the pallet and I have it centered to the best of my ability, doing this by myself. Once I go inside, I'll be able to make some little tiny movements, but it is ready to go. Definitely looks a lot cleaner than the other two units. But I was able to clean up the seal real well, or at least the roof material real well, so the seal will sit good on a nice clean surface. Anyways, let's get this stuff down. It is cold and windy up here, and then we're going to get this thing mounted. Okay, so we have the Coleman mock unit down. It's about an inch shorter than the Furrion, but that's okay because the back of the fifth wheel slopes down slightly, and as you can see, they're right at the same height now, so I don't think we're having any kind of clearance issues. But as I thought, this was definitely a little heavier. I'm going to say this one's probably maybe, I don't know, 110 pounds versus maybe 100 pounds. You can definitely tell, but maybe it was just because of the overall size. This is a larger unit in general, and that probably contributed to it. But let's get inside, get this thing wired up and going, because we're actually supposed to have rain today. You know, I got to tell you, for not having anybody spot me, I lined this thing up pretty dang well. Yeah, that's about as good as you could ask for. The foam is surrounding the entire thing. Just need to put the interior panel on, which is right here, and get this thing compressed down so it creates a seal. Once that's done, everything else is on the interior. I don't have to worry about water coming in through any holes or anything like that. So let's get that panel put on. Now, as we talked about earlier, the space right here is pretty deep. That's about 8 inches. But what's nice is they include this spacer right here. It's wrapped like that, and this simply presses on here, and then they give you some double-sided tape, or not double-sided, I'm sorry, some foam tape to create a seal there. So that's pretty good. It's definitely gonna help things out. Once we do that, then we'll use ducting tape to kind of seal everything else up to make sure there's no gaps between the return air and where the air is blowing out. So this project just became significantly more complicated because even with the longer bolts that secure this to the top unit, they still didn't reach. They were like over a ½ an inch too short, like 3/4 of an inch. However, the old bracket would reach. So what I'm doing here is I've cut the old square bracket, which was a square opening, right? I cut it into 4 pieces, and this edge right here won't actually sit over this edge right here, so I have to cut the edge out. I'm going to make this hole larger so I can fit my bit through it and tighten these corner brackets that I'm making in place. And you can see how I've ground down that corner. I've taken that off, which is what was needed, so I got to remove that corner from the rest of these. And then I should be able to mount this around the edge, kind of like a frame, and then I'll secure this to these. So that's the plan. So far, it seems like it's going to be working. I always run into this complication with AC replacements where the bolts just aren't long enough. Why do I have to have the RV, or why do I have to be working on the RV that for some reason is infinitely too thick of a sealing roof membrane for me to get through all of it and tighten it down? Anyways, I'm going to continue to grind down on these so I can have the corner brackets that hopefully will work. But you know, if I ever get rid of that other AC after fixing it, somebody's going to need a new frame because I'm using this one. Okay, so I really pray this works. Got my corner brackets, drilled out the longer holes, drilled through the foam because I need this to be able to go through, which it will now do, all the holes, and tighten the bolts that will hold this in place. Then I'm going to secure this to these with screws. So hopefully this works. I know it's going to create a little bit of a gap from the ceiling because it's a little thicker than it was before, but not much. So again, crossing my fingers. Check that out. So it worked. I'm going to be tightening it down more. I just barely tightened them down just to kind of see if it would work. Now, the next question is going to be, can I fit the other shroud inside of here? That's going to be an issue. Well, you can see how much of a gap there is here. Some of that's going to be the kerf of the blade or the thickness of the blade, but I think this is going to be wide enough now that I can fit the other panel over it and then secure that other panel to this, hopefully, because we're going to have to figure out how to do that. But at least I can get this tightened down on top so I don't have to deal with any possible leak issues if it starts raining. Okay, I know some of you are probably going to call me out on this, but I guess I didn't have to drill these larger holes in here because I put the bracket up before I put this on. But this fits beautifully over it now. Check that out. That worked out really well. Now all I need to do is to secure this to this without making the screws stick out far enough that it prevents me from putting that on it. And I don't think they will, because there's enough spacing around there that I think if I just put 4 screws in here to secure it to this, we should be in pretty good shape. Okay, so hopefully this is one of those projects that only has one major challenge, because this worked out really well. After I got the unit mounted and secured, I have this bracket on top of it. I have 5, I need to put a 6th one in, but I dropped it somewhere and I gotta find it. We have 5 screws. We have our power right here. This is our 120 right there. That is our ground. This is all thermostat related stuff, which I won't be needing anymore. Basically connected them all together. This is going to connect to something up there. Gotta find all that stuff. This wire connects to something up here as well. Actually, it connects to the stuff on there. So next step is to make my power connections, get my ground connected, and we're almost done. Okay, so we have all of our connections made. They're all clearly marked. I merged the 2 grounds right here, and then I have the ground going in to my connectors right here. I pushed all the wires back here. I'm going to close this area off with a bunch of ducting tape. I might actually put a little board there also. We have our plugs to our control board. Let's get our control board connected so we can test this thing out. Okay, so we have it mounted. Everything is in place. I still need to get up there with ducting tape and seal everything off, but it's easier just to kind of hook everything up, get it up there, and then check it out to make sure power's going to it, it's working properly. And then I'll pull it back down real quick, just the outer cover right here, and I'll seal everything up around it. I might even be able to recycle some of that foam there. But I'm just really, really excited to see how this performs at this point. I gotta probably reroute the ducting so the air goes into the vents more efficiently, kind of like I had it before. This is typically how you would probably have it, though. I might try one of those RV airflow things just to see if that actually works better, because not having to deal with so much ducting tape and eventually the tape losing its bond is a good thing. So having something that just inserts directly in would surely be helpful. That said, we are connected. I got batteries in the remote. Let's go out, turn RV power back on, and see how efficient this thing is, or if it even comes on. Okay, just turned power back on. Connected to shore power, turned my inverter on. We have power going back to that. The microwave is on. I heard the refrigerator start up. Let's see what happens here. All right. That is cool. It came on. That's a good sign. Let's see if we can drop the fan down. It's about 50 degrees outside, so don't necessarily think we need to run it. Wow, it's on. There we go. That is freaking cool. 75 degrees in here right now. I have it set at 60. A lot of air coming out. Don't know if you can hear that or not. This thing is insanely quiet, just like the other one. That is really, really cool. Wow. It is insane how quiet that is. And if I turn the fan speed down a little bit, let's see if I can do that from here. All right, so it's set for auto. We're gonna change it to cool. I'm going to drop the fan down to a lower speed. It is crazy how much quieter this is than the Coleman Quiet Cool that we removed. That is awesome. Wow, what do you guys think? This thing is working really well. You also have manual controls up here if you want to use them, even though it wouldn't really make a heck of a lot of sense. Turbo mode, fan mode. You can change between the different modes you have here. Auto, cool, dry, which is dehumidify. Fan, as well as optional heat. This one does not have a heat pump in it. You have your power controls right there. You can change your sleep settings. It's just basically, I think that just puts it on a timer. Fan's on auto right now. That's as loud as it'll go, but now it's going to drop down. And it looks really good. Yes, there is a tiny, tiny little space up there, but really it's not any more noticeable than the shadow around the other units. And it actually looks more like a black gasket. Actually, there's a gasket going around it, so that could be it too. But that looks really good. It blends into the ceiling better as well. It's like a lower profile unit than the Coleman. And it shows the temperature on the actual unit, which is also really, really nice. And again, the ability to control it with the remote is even better. That said, let's get the remote hung and wrap this video up. Okay, so I went ahead and hung the remote right here, even though I talked about putting it over there. Main reason why is because if I come in here, the slides are closed and I want to adjust it, I don't want to have to open up the slide to get to it. So I might try to get another one of these mounts to move it over there so we have a mount in both locations. But the good thing about it is I can just take the remote out and throw it in the center of the sofa, the love seat right there, and just keep it in there if I need to. So this is really cool. This thing works absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be probably equally as happy with this as I am with the other one, the non-ducted version of it. Right now we're not ducting it through, but I'll just get in there with some tape, close it all off, and we should have a really, really good functioning system in here. As soon as I close this, though, it's going to be really inefficient because there's a gap, so it's just essentially refeeding it air. But I can already feel air coming through the ducting really well. I'm actually getting a good amount of air coming through the ducting. So once I seal up the gap between the two at the top, man, we should get a lot of airflow coming in. Anyways, guys, we're going to wrap this video up. I'll do that off camera. I hope this is something that you enjoyed watching. I know a lot of folks have been interested in the ducted version of this Furrion Chill Cube 18,000 BTU variable speed air conditioner. It's super quiet, super efficient, and it's capable of starting up even on a smaller battery supply than you typically would use because of that variable speed startup and the fact that it doesn't draw as much current. I'll throw a link to more information of this in the description of this video if this is something you may be interested in. But yeah, big shout out to the folks over at Furrion for providing this for review and evaluation on the channel. We ran into a few hiccups, something you may also run into, so hopefully some of the things that I did to overcome those are things that you might be able to do as well if you have the same problem. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again real soon.